Welcome everyone to my opinion piece regarding the August 24th, 2020 Exeter Township Board of Supervisors meeting. I have several issues I'd like to talk about. The first one, of course, being the issue addressing opening up the sports fields to sporting events, baseball, soccer. I'm assuming that this is at all different age levels. So the board has discussed this in this meeting. You can go see it, where they have a rather lengthy discussion about using it or not. And this is a major departure from the board's position since COVID-19 began. Their position has been whatever Governor Wolf mandates, they will follow that mandate. And they've done that. They've taken the Board of Supervisors meetings on the internet. They've closed down the Dunn Center for activities. They've prevented the kids and parents from going to the playgrounds. And closed the library, of course. And there might be other issues that they've closed down, but this one seems to be running contrary to their position, because Governor Wolf still says that these sporting activities should be canceled until January 1st of 2021. So they're in discussions to open up the fields to athletics. And that means there are going to be spectators. There might be food vendors there, older or younger children. And my position is neutral. Whether they keep them closed or whether they open them up is not really a concern of mine. However, if they do open them, then I think they need to consider all of the other areas that they shut down. And my particular interest is the Board of Supervisors meetings. So you're going to allow hundreds of people to congregate and interact on the athletic fields, but you will not open up the meetings to 15 to 20 people that would like to attend them. And I just think that sends a bad message to everyone. Now they're planning on having everyone sign a document to indemnify the township. But when you're not consistent in the application of these things, I think that opens us up to serious legal issues. Who's to determine what is safe and what is not under these COVID-19 conditions? I'm not quite sure that the board is experienced enough to make those decisions, but you can make that assessment yourself. So if they go ahead and they open up the fields, I think that gives us a stronger position to entertain opening up the Board of Supervisors meetings, because it's their obligation to make every effort to open up these Board of Supervisor meetings to the public. Our rooms are large enough, we could distance anyone that goes in there. They could be safe, they could distance themselves as well, 6 feet, wear a mask. They could continue streaming it over the internet. That way the public has a choice. They can watch it over the internet, or they can go to the meetings in person. So they have a great choice. If they're afraid that something might happen going to the meetings, they can watch it on the internet. Their only excuse will be that they have problems with the public address system. Well, this is just a technical issue that can be very easily solved. I think that's what it is, an excuse. If they can't solve these very small problems, how are they going to deal with all the big problems that are going to crop up when they start building the promenade? And I think if you've watched their videos over the past couple years, they're not very good at addressing surprises. So let's keep an eye on this. They haven't voted one way or the other. They might address it at the next meeting. And let's see how that will affect the Board of Supervisors public meetings, because there are municipalities, there are other townships like Amity that are holding their meetings and open to the public. So why aren't we? My second issue that I wanted to talk about are the budget overruns. You might have heard me in the comment section asking about the departments that have exceeded the budgets by a tremendous amount of money and percentages, and they focused on only one, which was the engineering, zoning, and planning department, which has spent over $361,000 over budget, and this was only till the end of July, so we can expect it to go even higher. And that's well over 1,000% over the budget. And their excuse is that they misclassified the expenses. So here's another accounting error that we catch that should have been very obvious. And why hasn't it come to anyone's attention? Is because the board doesn't do their job. They should be looking at these treasury reports, looking at excessive overspending and discussing it for the public to understand. And they also should be approving any of these excessive spending issues. But that department's not the only one. We had another department, Administration, Human Resources, okay? They were 1,200% over their budget. So what's the excuse for that? The engineering zoning excuse is, well, they charged monies that were spent on the Perkiomen Avenue project to that account, and they talk about it in a meeting. They should reclassify it. But what's the excuse for Administration and Human Resources? 1,200% over budget at the end of July. Or how about Administration Finance? So consulting services are 523% over budget. I had a conversation with David Speece in 2019 because I pointed out that there were serious errors in their budget, which John Casadis, who was the chairman at the time, just, steamrolled it into the meeting and had it approved, adopting it, just because they wanted to. So, but Mr. Speece, I recall his comments very clearly. He said, it doesn't really matter what the number is. We can change it anytime we want. Well, Mr. Speece, once you adopt a budget, that's the number. And you should spend more time and make better efforts in creating the next budget. Now, of course, it's very simple for us since we have $40 million in the bank. You just cover it up. But these overages against the budget should be brought out to the public. It should be discussed. And anytime you exceed the budget numbers by these amounts, it should be approved by the Board of Supervisors going forward so that there's no confusion. We'll see what I doubt they'll respond to any of that. My third item out of 4 items is the recycling costs. They're outrageous. And I'll give you a little background about these recycling costs. This was a Granger project, and there was no real study done. He just said a couple residents came to him and said that, it would be nice to pick up the recyclables every week instead of every 2 weeks. Now, in my opinion, this was a planned thing by Granger, and in my opinion, it benefits 2 organizations. of course, the garbage company, Blazinski's, who picks up the recyclables, but they just kind of benefit because they were going to be the ones that pick it up. The true beneficiary of this, in my opinion, is J.P. Mascaro. And you have to understand, he just built a recycling plant. So here's the problem, and as a businessman, I can tell you what he's done is something that any businessman would do, but we end up paying for it. And what he's done is he said, well, I don't want to wait every 2 weeks to get these recyclables delivered to me. I want to get them every week. So it smooths out my processing in my plant. That's how this happened. And they misrepresented the real reasons. Not only that, but they never increased the budget to cover the additional expenses. So what they told us was, well, we're going to keep the recycle fee where it's at, and we will pay the increase out of the current general fund dollars. But let's look at the numbers, okay? When we pick the recyclables up every 2 weeks, it cost us $18,000 a month. And that equates into $216,000 a year. And we were paying $20 for that, for the year, for each resident. And that works out to about 10,800 homes, which is almost mark on the Census Bureau's count. So in 2020 now, they've increased that to every week, and the cost per month went from $18,000 a month to $45,000 a month. And that's $540,000 for the year. And that equates into an increase from every other week to every week of a $324,000 increase, which, as I mentioned earlier, isn't being charged to us now. It's just being paid out of the monies that were left in the general fund from the prior year. Most likely, really, it's coming out of the sewer plant proceeds. So, do we really need to recycle every week? I don't think so. There are probably situations with certain people where that would be convenient for them, but I don't think it's necessary. Most people, they can wait 2 weeks and it would be fine. If there are problems with containers, it's a lot cheaper to provide them with an extra container than to spend an additional $324,000 a year. So when you look at it on a per household cost, right now you pay $20. Next year, if they keep it the same way for, in my opinion, Mr. Mascaro's business, you take the total amount divided by the 10,800 homes, and we're looking at $50 for each household. So your cost would go up an additional $30. So the township really needs to decide if it's really practical to have to do that. And I think, in my opinion, the Board of Supervisors are sort of controlled by Mascaro. I have reasons to believe it. So I'm going to make a prediction, and I hope I'm wrong, that they're going to continue doing this. They're just going to bump up the fee to $50, or if they can negotiate a lower price, something less, but it's still going to be more cost for us. You can bank on it. So the last thing I want to talk about is our new manager, Jeff Bartlett. If you'll hear it in this meeting on August 24th, 2020 meeting about a right to know request that's been sitting there for months. And at the last meeting, he claimed it was completed and it's available to the requestor. But in this meeting, he admits he misspoke. The information is not available because it's extensive amount of pages and it takes a long time. Well, they've had months to do this. Okay, it's not like they got it last week or even last month. It's been quite long, and they just ignored the requesters. And this information has to do with the noise ordinance, which affects a lot of people in this particular area where it really started. And for those that you don't know the background, the people causing the noise, the family, the father of the family is a Fox and Rothschild attorney. And so my opinion, my suspicions are that that's why this has dragged on for so long. I know if my kids were riding bikes up and down and annoying the neighbors, and you told me about it, I would try to agree to a reasonable time to do it. And if my kids kept doing it, I would take those bikes away from them. I'd have a little extra cash in my pocket because I'd sell them. But not this guy. He wants to go on annoying about 20, 30 neighbors. So, but back to Mr. Bartlett. He misspoke. Well, you know, you have the responsibility by law to furnish these documents in 5 days, or you can ask for a 30-day extension. They gave the 30-day extension, but they didn't fulfill their obligations. So this is going to be interesting. I recommend to the people that are aggrieved about this, that they file an appeal with the OLR and see what they can do about it. It's unfortunate that this happens, but Mr. Bartlett also misspoke at the last meeting on right to know requests, on the right to know request report, where he claimed there were 42 new right to know requests in the monthly report, when you can go check it yourself, there's only 21. So he's new, maybe he's a little confused, overworked, but he's supposed to have a lot of experience, okay? And we're paying him a lot of money to be accurate. So let's keep an open mind and see what happens, but we will be looking at his performance, and we could decide then if we've got a good manager or if we haven't. So thank you for listening to my opinion. I don't know that everyone would agree with what I've discussed, but I've given you some background on the issues that they addressed in this last meeting, and I hope that's helpful. Remember, you can find all my videos at exeterunited.com, along with my blog where I discuss more in depth some of these issues. And you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel where you will get an alert each time I post a new video. So once again, thanks for listening to my opinion. Have a good evening.
Okay, good to go.
Very good. Thanks, Laura. I'd like to call to order the August 24th, 2020 meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the
United States of America,
and to the republic
for which stands one nation under God, indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
Roll call. Ms. Kircher.
Here.
Mr. Galtier.
Here.
Mr. Staub.
Here.
Mr. Cusadas.
Here.
And I'm here. Dave Spees. Start with public comments.
Okay. First public comment we have is from Tom McAuliffe.
The Exeter United FC Board of Directors, on behalf of the 500 families who are a part of our organization, would like to take this opportunity to thank you for all the tireless effort you have put forth through years of service to this community. This commitment continues to be displayed in your response to the COVID pandemic of 2020. We all have been faced with many challenges during this time and have had to navigate these challenges with often limited resources and inconsistent and at times contradicting information from our state and federal officials. Our club has taken great measures to provide an opportunity for the youth in our community to safely interact and exercise through the game of soccer. Social interaction and active lifestyles are aspects of our children's lives that have been severely restricted by this pandemic. Our team worked diligently to create what we consider to be a comprehensive COVID safety and action plan according to CDC and POD-08 recommendations and mandates from Eastern Pennsylvania Youth SA, our soccer governing body. This plan is actively being executed with our coaches, players, parents, and members working together responsibly and implementing new standards. The measures that are outlined in this plan create safer, controlled, and enforceable means to foster youth sports in our community while reducing the spread of COVID-19. This plan has been created in accordance with other local soccer clubs and has been used as the basis for many of their plans. A copy of this plan has been provided to the township for review and feedback is encouraged. EUFC and Exeter Township have a strong relationship and the children have been the beneficiaries of this for many years. In fact, youth soccer has been played on township fields since 1986. We are hoping to continue with this trend for the fall 2020 season and are asking you to allow us to use township properties while the county remains in a green status. We're confident that this is the right move for our community and that we can execute the best practices found in our action plan. We appreciate your consideration on this matter and the continued support we receive from Exeter Township. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us with questions or suggestions as we work together to grow our relationship and create memorable experiences for our youth.
Okay, I know we're going to be discussing the sports fields tonight, but yeah, I did get to see this plan and look through it, and yeah, it's very impressive, you know, what this group has put together. So I don't know if anyone else has any comments. We're going to be discussing it under unfinished business. Good to go? Okay, Lauren.
Okay, next comment is from Chris Jordan.
Please keep the sports fields and parks in Exeter Township open for safe use. I am a strong advocate of children and adults getting out and enjoying the beautiful facilities we have in Exeter Township. Even amidst this challenging pandemic, there are safe ways to utilize these facilities. I have confidence in our parents, youth sports coaches, and volunteers to implement the proper protocols to ensure safe activities for our residents. Please keep the parks and sports fields open.
Yep, and yeah, I guess again we're going to be covering that one later, but I know I've spoken with Chris as well, and yeah, I think a lot of these organizations are sharing best practices, so I guess we'll be discussing that. So I think that's good. Okay. Any other comments from anybody? Yep. Okay, go ahead, Laura.
Okay, the next one is from David Hughes, and there's just going to be a slight delay in the beginning of this before it starts to play. I just want to block out some personal contact information.
844. And this is my following comment related to consulting services, budget, and expenses. We have 3 departments: administration, human resources, engineering, zoning, and budgeting, administration, finance. Those 3 departments are budgeted for a total of $45,500 for the year. Yet here at the end of July 31st, the spending has exceeded $433,000, and we've exceeded the amount budgeted by 1,083%. And my concern on this agenda item is that we hear no discussions during the board meetings when you approve the Treasury report, particularly addressing these significant cost overruns. And one thing seems to be missing is that there should be a requirement to approve by the board this type of excess spending. And I'm concerned about this because I'm wondering, where is the fiscal discipline? And I'm going to make a comment about Mr. Casadis' comment that he made. I'm going to paraphrase some of this, but he told us that we should remember that you move to program-based budgeting so that every penny is accounted for in regards to every part of the budget. He said this practice was never done before from previous boards, but now we have an open and visible data on where every penny goes. And this is all part of the fiscal discipline and better administration structure this Board of Supervisors continues to talk about. So we have that, and I know I'm very familiar with program-based budgeting. It was designed actually out of California, and its aim was to address the challenges of turning budgeted documents into something accessible for all residents. The goal is to develop an easy-to-read and easy-to-understand document that answers the age-old question that residents have. How does the government spend my tax dollars? Well, the Treasury report is in a departmental format, not a program-based format. So do we have an additional report that we're never seeing, program-based budgeting? I'd like to know if that exists, and if so, when can we see that? Thank you very much for taking my comment.
Comments from anybody? I know we'll be covering this during the budgeting process and maybe discuss it at the treasurer's report, but okay.
Okay, and next comment is from John Carmello. He's asking his question is related to disbursements. I'm going to play them one by one just because I think it will play easier based on the way that he's written it. It's just two.
Check disbursements number 10,334 CTN Solutions Incorporated. Police PC replacement $3,000. What is special about this PC that justifies this cost?
I know we typically talk about disbursements, I know when we get there, but the CTN, I mean, I think that's includes software maintenance and other things, Jen, on CTN when we buy computers.
This was a special invoice for, I think we deployed 12 or 15 new computers in the police department that we purchased a little bit ago. This was their invoice to implement getting the computers up and running, installing software, getting them established, all of that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, and then the next one, still John Carmello, is just his second part of his question.
Number 313 Michael Sportswear T-shirts, $1,509. Please provide details on this expenditure.
Yeah, I know these are, I think that was one that Jen already addressed or talked about. And this is the parks department typically have uniforms.
No, these are the ones, the yellow with the reflective safety stripes on them for the highway and parks, but
Yeah,
that's what this was for.
yeah, need to have them. Okay, Laura.
That was it.
Okay. Regular approvals, public hearing minutes, August 10th, 2020, the first public hearing.
I make a motion to approve the public hearing minutes, the first meeting, August 10th, 2020.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The second public hearing minutes, August 10th, 2020.
I move that we approve the public hearing minutes for the second meeting, August 10th, 2020.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The regular minutes following the public hearings of the August 10th, 2020 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular minutes of the August 10th, 2020 Board of Supervisors meeting held on August the 10th, 2020.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Disbursements, August 24th, 2020.
Move that we approve the disbursements as detailed for August 24th, 2020.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? Joe, I think you had a few inquiries.
Yeah, I sent Jen a list. She's going to go over. One of them actually was Michael Sportswear. So thanks, Mr. Carmello. You saved us one.
Okay, we did go over Weichel. Those were t-shirts for the highway departments, reflective shirts. General recreation, we had a $3,940 bill for a swing set. This was a new swing set to replace a broken swing set at Mountain Park. We've been working very hard to update Mountain Park with some new mulch and things there to make it a little more presentable. This was actually paid for out of the park fund, and we did some general park repairs and some small equipment replacements that were paid for and budgeted out of the park fund. PA American Water, there was a $7,717 bill for hydrant service. We pay this bill monthly. It's for fire hydrant water service, and this is paid from the utility fund. So those folks who have hydrants near their house pay tax into this fund, and then the bills for the fire hydrants and also for the streetlights are paid out of that fund. South Reading Blacktop, $25,918 for paving. This was the paving of Spruce Avenue, and all blacktop paving is paid from the liquid fuels or the state fund. There's an invoice for Sustine for $4,302. This is police equipment that was purchased using our DEA sharing monies.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks, Jen. Any further discussion or comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, subject to audit.
Subject to audit. Thank you. I think I said opposed. Everyone was in favor. Subject to audit. Treasurer's report, July 2020. We had some public comments there, and I think we've discussed this before, and I think we're going to be talking about this during the budgeting process. I don't know, Jeff, if you have any comments, but when a lawsuit or a personnel changes or we decide to outsource positions, it's kind of hard to control line item in a budget. It is an estimate, but anyway, I don't know if anyone has any comments on that.
No, Dave, the only thing, and I understand where Mr. Hughes was coming from on there because it is significantly higher. I believe, Jeff, you had said that there were some items on there that were lumped in that you thought maybe should be reallocated, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that's correct. Most of this large number comes from the Perkiomen Avenue project. The engineering costs of that project were put into the Township Engineering Zoning Department for contracted services there. So that's why that line is overblown. In reality, that number should probably have been placed when it first started coming in, should have been maybe a capital item because it really is going towards a capital project. This money that we are spending on the engineering is counting towards the township's match for all the work that's actually going to be done by PennDOT and paid for by the state and federal monies. So it is an expense. It's really showing up in the wrong location, and that's something that if the board wants to, as the project progresses a little bit more, to do a line item transfer with board approval. The money is allocated. It can be taken out of capital projects versus being shown in the zoning engineering department. But these are legitimate expenses, and this money is our match towards that project. It's, several $1 million worth of work is actually getting paid for by others, but we have to pay for the engineering of it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, I think we
I'll make a
mentioned
motion to approve the treasurer's report, July 2020, subject to audit.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
I just want to mention that we did mention that a couple meetings ago as well, that big over on the engineering budget. It was due to the Perkiomen Street project.
Yeah, sometimes good to
refresher doesn't hurt.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Now let's move to unfinished business.
Dave, would you like me to address Mr. Hughes' question about the program-based budgeting?
Sure, Jen.
We actually do implement program-based budgeting. He's calling it departmental. So it is broken down first by department. So there's an administrative section, there's a finance, there's a highway section, parks, engineering, police. Those are the different subsections for the departments. And then underneath each department, it has the programs that they run and facilitate. So you can see the costs for different items. Paving costs are in there, those sorts of things. Police is broken down between patrol and detective and those things. So each program is broken down underneath the actual department. Now there are a couple of programs where you would have to add together some sections. MS4 being one of them. It's in the engineering section. It's also in the highway section because the engineering office handles more of the discussions with the engineer, and then Clarence's highway department actually handles more of the actual MS4 work. So you can get to a program based, but we do have it broken down by program.
Great. Thanks, Jen. Thanks for contributing that. Okay, we move to unfinished business. Discussion on the township sports field rentals for fall sports. Laura, are you going to kick that off, or?
Sure can. So this is really just a continuation of the discussion we had at the last meeting. We were pending just back up a second. Governor Wolf had made a recommendation that all pre-K through 12 sports be postponed until at least January 1st. It was just a recommendation he made. He did state he was not going to enforce it, but he was going to rely on localities to make their decisions and to enforce it on a case-by-case basis. We had been waiting because PIAA had postponed making their decision before the last meeting. They have since made their decision, and they've decided to go forward with youth sports. The Exeter School District is also following that, so they are going forward with sports and continuing with the plan that they have put into place that seems thus far to be working for them. I know they've had some instances with some positive cases, but they've been doing everything as recommended as far as I know. So at this point, the question is just, we do have requests for organizations that would like to use our fields. And again, for us, it's really just a field rental. These are not township sports leagues, so we're not responsible for really anything other than providing the space. The technicality of it is we really wouldn't need to be enforcing the rules. It's really on the organizations themselves, the coaches and the people that are in charge there. So really my question for the board is, we have in the past, as a township, we have erred on the side of caution and we have followed the recommendations of the governor. Now, given the information that's available right now with PIAA saying they're going ahead, now technically, yes, that's against the governor's recommendations, but the school district is going ahead with sports. And I also think, and you heard in some of the comments earlier this evening, that the organizations have shared with me the plans that they've put into place, which are very comprehensive, and they are aware that they do it as a condition of using our property. They would need to be in full compliance with all of the CDC recommendations and be social distancing and limiting spectators and enforcing mask wearing rules. So the only issues, I shouldn't say only, but some of the issues that I see possibly presenting it themselves to us would be if organizations are allowed to use the fields but are not following the rules, how might we handle that? Capacity issues, if we have, like, for example, at Trout Run, several teams use that property at the same time, so we could experience some capacity issues that I might need to deal with. Complaints, we did have some complaints. We allowed sports, eventually we did allow sports to begin, as you know, late, but we did allow some summer sports to happen, and I did receive some complaints from people who said that teams weren't following rules and that sort of thing. So I was really just looking for some direction from the board. I would, if the board is comfortable with it, I would, based on PIAA's recommendation and based on the school district and kind of following along with what they're doing, these are mostly the same kids that are playing for the school that are playing on the leagues on our fields. I would be okay continuing with the plan that we originally set in place in order for these organizations to use our fields. And I would be willing to go the extra step and do some additional spot checks and make sure that people are following the rules and then communicate that directly to the organizations. And if it seems like we reach a point where they're not following the rules, then we just rescind. We've had that stipulation in place since we began allowing field usage when we first went to the green phase. So I would be comfortable doing that if the board is comfortable, but I'm looking for your direction on it.
I have a question about it. It's for Liz, probably. I've read in the paper that the PIAA is not covered liability-wise if it's a COVID-related illness. Is the township going to be covered if we allow the use of the fields? I know the organizations have insurance, but in a lawsuit, it's very possible that they go to the township that has deeper pockets.
Right. What we've been requiring our municipal clients to do that have, facilities where youth sports are being played, or swimming pools, etc., that we prepare an indemnification agreement for those organizations to sign to protect the township from any liability, any exposure on that end. I know that, these youth leagues are also having the parents sign, indemnification agreements, but because they are going to be on township facilities that are owned by the township, I would recommend that you have those organizations sign an indemnification agreement releasing the township from any liability due to COVID.
How many organizations is it, Lori? Football, soccer, baseball?
Yep, football, soccer. Baseball's not confirmed, but softball would normally also continue to play, and rugby as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think we do that. We do what Liz said, and we got to get the fields open. So
we have sample. We've used them for other municipal clients, so it's not like we're reinventing the wheel. It won't be a lot of time and expense on behalf of the township to have our office prepare.
And you also put together. I'm sorry, Greg. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you're pretty comfortable those will hold up?
Yes.
Okay.
And the soccer club, Dave and I talked earlier, put a really good document together with the COVID response. So I was really blown away by that. So I think they did their homework. They have a plan. Yeah. So I think we should definitely let them use the fields.
And I think they are willing to share those, with other sports teams as well, their guidelines.
Yes, they are. And I will say all of the teams have really, we've had open lines of communication through this whole thing. So they're very responsive. I don't imagine none of them are going to have an issue with signing an indemnification agreement. I think they're all ready to use the fields, and they've really put the onus on themselves and taken the extra steps. And like you mentioned, John, the plan that was submitted to us that we reviewed was very, very well thought out.
Great. Well,
with my question was going to be about the liability. So if we have indemnification agreement signed and PIAA is stating that they're okay with the fall sports, the school district is, we're dealing with the same kids, I would recommend, as long as we protect ourselves and they're following the rules, and we have the ability to move them off. If they're not following the rules, then I have no issue with it at all.
Great.
The question I have is about the parents and other people that will come and watch the sports. Must we have anything in place for them, or can we just have a standard sign put up at each place saying that people for watching sports are at their own risk or something like that? Because I know the other one will cover that, which we need, cover the players and the coaches and all that, but do we need something else for the people attending these events?
It's not a bad idea. Some of our municipal clients are posting, guidelines or signs on township-owned facilities where youth sports are going to be played, just so they know that the township is not responsible for illnesses, etc. I can provide you with a sample of that also. But I think it's a good idea to put those people on notice too, that the township is not responsible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do those signs then cover us? Do you feel comfortable with that?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And, I think, Laura, I mean, we pushed some of that stuff at our playgrounds already. So I think we know where at each field, kind of where people congregate, and I've observed them, they really are distancing themselves under tents and other things, but probably at those observation points, it would be nice to, probably do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can do that. I can also distribute that, whatever the guidelines, I can send them to each organization and they can distribute them to parents as well so that everybody knows, but also post it to really make sure that everybody has the information.
Great. So it sounds like, do you need anything more than that? So the signs and the indemnification agreements, and sounds like we're a go.
Sounds good. And we'll just continue to keep an eye on it and make sure that everyone's following the rules, and I'll get the paperwork in order.
I'll get you those agreements this week.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Lori, one quick question. I don't remember if I saw it. I may have missed it in their guidelines they put together regarding the restrooms. I don't know if they actually addressed it, that they would have a separate restroom and lock them, and I don't remember if I saw that. I mean, that's a key issue. They were very detailed on how they were going to keep the players apart and telling them not to spit and everything else, but right. I don't remember.
My assumption would be that maybe that was not included in the guidelines that they sent to us, because those guidelines are not just specific to Exeter Township fields. They use other locations as well. They're all aware of that rule because that's what I released to them when the board first approved my plan for opening the fields up again. So they are all aware that and many of them have already rented their own porta potties and they are having them locked and they're responsible for them. So they are all aware of that. But I will reiterate that to all of the organizations as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be good. I know the ones at the school district, like down at Rifton School and stuff by the playground areas, there's porta potties there. They are not locked. Anybody can go in and use them. I don't know if they're locked maybe in the evening or something else, but I'm sure they're being provided, I guess, by the school district.
Oh.
But they are open. I know the ones there. Every time I've been there, they're unlocked.
Laurie, with their requirements, and I did read them, they were very, very good. They're similar to what the school districts are putting together. But did they have requirements for social distancing with the spectators?
So spectators, in my conversation, I've only spoken to Soccer about this, but he explained to me that spectators for actual games, they haven't gotten that guidance just yet, but so far they've been requiring, and they're just practicing, so they haven't had very many spectators at this point, but they require masks, they require social distancing, and they just haven't finalized, and this is why I think that I'll just continue to reevaluate and see if anything has changed, because by the time we get to games, that was one of the main concerns I had, because you obviously attract a lot more people.
My concern is I think the kids are easier to listen than sometimes the parents will be.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, policing the parents, I think, will be a bigger issue.
Yeah,
Right.
some of those rules, Greg, are going to be at the level of the league. For example, I referee soccer, so I get a lot of emails. I was telling Lori from what me as a referee have to do differently, and one of those is going to be to make sure that the fans are not. We don't have those rules yet, but they're working on them.
Right.
So the fans, we have 2 referees, 22 kids, and you got to referee the parents too? Good luck.
Well, I think our job is to make sure that the fans are socially distanced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And you didn't have anything else to do. That's good.
Right.
You're not doing that too.
Well, I will say, like I made a comment earlier, that what I've seen so far at the field, at our fields, walking by and stuff, that families and stuff typically stay together and they're very spread out, around the field in their own little pods.
It's like anything, it'll go well for 90%, but you're going to have the 10% of games that you have idiots that ruin it for everybody.
But it's not like, it doesn't look like people are crowding into bleachers or anything like that.
Right. And that's where I would say, I think.
Do we have bleachers?
Scott Run does. Yes.
Yeah.
We might want to consider removing them.
Or maybe like blocking them somehow.
Yeah, people don't really use them hardly ever. They bring their own chairs, from what I've seen. But yeah, we can look at that.
How hard are they to collapse, Clarence? The ones that trout run, do they collapse or are they?
No, they're
on the ground. Okay.
We could block them all.
They're movable, but they're
not just a collapsible one. Okay.
No.
Okay, you got what you need, Laurie?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Item number 2 under unfinished business, discussion on community park. I don't know, Jeff or Clarence, if you want to kick this off. And Joe, I know you've had a discussion or two.
Well, the concept was to have a meeting with the school district in St. Lawrence and Exeter Township. St. Lawrence has notified us that they're not interested in meeting to discuss the park. So that leaves it between the township and the school district. So we're going to be meeting with them to probably a Zoom meeting to discuss it and determine what steps we're going to take. Obviously, it was reported. Mr. Ham reported, the damage and everything that had been at that location. And our goal would be, if we are going to be held to the remainder of the lease, that we would be able to remove most of the structures at the park to eliminate the liability, and then just leave it more as a passive park. Just if anyone wants to show up there and walk around or have a picnic, they could do that, but we wouldn't have the buildings and the structures that are constantly getting vandalized and damaged. So once we meet with the school district, we'll be able to report back to the full board and determine what step we're going to be able to take or not be able to take regarding the park.
From a safety perspective, should we remove the rides at least? From a safety standpoint?
Right now, as far as safety is concerned, down there, the swings are really the only immediate concern. We should probably take those down. The rest of the equipment has been actually just recently checked by our insurance company. So it's not an immediate need, and I would say if we're not taking everything down all in one shot, there's no real immediate need except for the swings. The swing set should definitely come down.
Yeah, there's the swings and something else looked pretty dangerous when.
I would take everything out in the sandbox.
Yeah, sandbox should go.
Yes, the whole sandbox and the equipment that's in the sandbox should be removed, and the swings. The other pieces could wait.
Okay, maybe do that then. Just remove those and then wait for the other stuff.
We are meeting. We're just waiting for Dr. Minor to confirm, but Jeff, I believe it was September 1st or 3rd. It's between the 1st and the 3rd, so we've already arranged a meeting. In the meantime, I've spoke with the board president, Dave Hemberger, and also Hunter Ahrens was involved. we'll get some additional additional information. But at this point in time, and I stress to them that, especially after the most recent episode of vandalism, that we really don't have a tremendous desire to be putting additional money into something that technically we do not own. Obviously, we have a lease and we're going to take care of the property. We understand that, but to continue to put money into something that is constantly destroyed just doesn't make business sense. It just doesn't. So I know we have a lot of memories down there. We'd like to be able to have something down there, but that stuff is in disrepair. There's a hole in the roof. Everybody I think has been down by now. It is eventually probably going to need to go one way or the other. My guess is, and I'm saying my guess, is the school district isn't going to want to fix that particular equipment. So I would recommend that we get rid of everything as far as the swing set and the things in the sandbox, as you said, and then hopefully we can have some additional clarification by the time we meet the next time and give Clarence the direction, assuming that the way we're thinking is that direction is just to get rid of the rest of the stuff, and then we'd have that open space where people still could use it. The creek is still there, and they could bring their umbrellas. They could still use it as a picnic area, the whole things, and the basketball courts will still be there. Correct, Clarence?
That's correct. And the tennis courts.
So those things. So I think right now we basically have everything locked down and a pavilion that's beat up. So I don't think there'll be a lot lost at this point, but it's definitely in disrepair.
Yeah, disappointing that St. Lawrence, didn't want to do anything, but I guess it is what it is.
Yeah, they did discuss it at a meeting, by the way. They said they do not have a desire to be, I guess, partner in fixing that facility up or taking it over. That's my understanding.
It's in their property.
Yeah, and they have the one across the street. Question for
Joe's office.
Who's responsible for the bridge across the creek?
That's the schools.
Okay. I was wondering because, like I said earlier, the last storm, that washed out there.
Yeah.
You come off on the Lorraine side, and you kind of got to go across a ditch, and it looks a little hazardous.
Yeah, we'll clean up the path. Maybe put some stone there at the steps, but it is the schools. We did some. We repaired the boards. I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
3 years.
Yeah, they paid for it, but we did the work. So we can sort of doctor it up for them.
Okay. Yeah, it's used by a lot of people crossing between the fields, but you want it to be safe because I see people trying to navigate across there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll continue to discuss this after the school district meeting with the school district. Everyone good? Any further comments?
Do we need anything official for Clarence to be able to move the stuff out of the sandbox, or can we just proceed?
We can go. We're good, I think.
Okay.
Very good. New business. Item number 1, consider renewing lease agreement with the County of Berks for the Magistrate District Justice Offices at 10 Fairlane Road.
This is an addendum to the existing lease. Not knowing exactly the full direction we're going to be taking regarding possible renovation or expansion of our municipal complex, we felt it would be best to do a short-term lease with this group. They agreed. It's just a 1-year extension. Everything pretty much staying the same in terms of the setup and everything. They do pay rent to the township. The annual rent would be $46,992.84. And at the end, or when we get close to next year, we'll reevaluate where we are in our process, our planning process, or potential construction, and we'll have to determine at that time if we need another lease or how long that lease would be. There's the question that will have to come out eventually. Does the township want to just continue leasing this space out to them and own that property? Or would the township be interested in possibly selling that property as part of a potential reorganization of our entire complex up at the Promenade Center? Do we want to move them up there also, or leave them where they are and just continue have them renting the facility? But in the meantime, we do need to move ahead with this lease, so I'm recommending that the board approve the one-year addendum to the current lease.
Jeff, one question. We just own the structure, right? They own everything inside the building?
Yeah, the equipment, their desks and everything, that's their equipment. We own the structure, and also the tax office also has some space in that building.
Yeah. Great. Comments, questions from anyone?
I'll make a motion that we renew the lease agreement for 1 year with the Magistrate Justice, District Justice offices.
I'll second.
Any further comment or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Maybe scroll down there, Laurie. Thank you. Item number 2, consider adopting resolution updating the right to know officer information with the Office of Open Records.
I believe when Tina was appointed, we needed to formalize this process a little bit more. And she was appointed to the position in January. This more or less formalized it by resolution. She has been holding the position and doing the work there. So what we need to do is just kind of make it a formal adoption. And as part of that, we're including the open records policy with the resolution.
Comments, questions? Not? I will make a motion to adopt the resolution updating the right to know officer information with the Office of Open Records.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 3, accept the resignation of Jacki York from the Exeter Community Library Board.
I move that we accept the resignation of Jacki York from the Exeter Community Library Board.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to thank her very much for taking her time to work on the board, because the community uses it so very much, and just thank her for doing it.
Yeah, I'll echo Michelle's comments. Yeah, thank her for her service to the community.
Absolutely.
Excellent, thanks, agree. Thanks, Michelle. Any, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Consider appointing Mariel Jordan to the Exeter Community Library Board vacancy.
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation from the library board to appoint Miss Mariel Jordan to replace Miss York as part of the Exeter Community Library Board.
Second.
Who was that?
I think Joe got it.
Joe got it.
We got it. Any further discussion? I certainly want to welcome Mariel and appreciate her taking on the position.
Absolutely.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Authorize advertisement for bids for the township mowing contract. 3 years already.
Yeah, we would, we'd like to get this out just so we have it'll give us a better idea for budgeting. Since, by the time we get this stuff back, grass mowing will almost be over for this year, but, that way we'll have a real good idea on what it's gonna cost us for the next couple of years.
I move we authorize advertisement for bids for the township mowing contract.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Excellent. Department reports. Clarence?
Hey, don't want to steal Lori's thunder here, but her Mountain Park, we finally finished that last week, the rehabilitation of that one. Put a lot of time into it. Looks good. All new timbers, new mulch, put some drain tile around it to get keep the water away, matting, new swing set. And we planted a lot of grass seed around it too, but all in all, it looks real good. It was a huge improvement. It was something that I don't think we had touched that thing other than mulch in the last 15 years, so it definitely needed it.
Yeah, Clarence, I would say, I mean, that looks like the time I was there, it looks like it's getting a lot of use.
Yeah, well, yeah, they do. It gets used hard now, but even before, but it was in rough shape, so it definitely needed it. The only thing we have left to do is we're gonna steam clean the toys off yet, so they can use a good cleanup. But other than that, everything else was finished over there. So last week we still spent the rest of last week cleaning trees up. We had a lot of trees from our junk properties that we've taken back from developers that have fallen on to property owners, and so unfortunately we're stuck cleaning them up. I think we had at least 6 of those last week. Also, we're back on our 3rd round of highway mowing. We finished the state mowing contract for this year. Other than that, it's been a pretty busy week. So, also, I mentioned before the meeting about the honeybees. There was a large walnut tree that fell down across the road at the golf course by 12T. We realized that there were an awful lot of honeybees flying around in there, so we had a guy come in, and he was able to take all those out. There were 2 full-size colonies with each having its own queen, so worked out really well for, I guess, the bees and for us. We didn't get stung, and I guess the bees are happy. So there was over 20-some gallon of honey taken out of there too. That's it.
Excellent. Thanks, Clarence.
Yep.
Joe, you want to?
Just one quick item. At our planning commission meeting last Monday on the 20th, we received a informal sketch plan from the owners of the Exeter Commons shopping center. They're proposing to subdivide the property up so that each of the business establishments are going to be on their own separate parcel. These plans were submitted for comments. Our office generated a review letter, and we worked with staff and the solicitor, and it was determined that they're going to need a various zoning relief, including dimensional variances and so forth, and setbacks for this to actually be approved. We relayed our concerns as well as the planning commission, and we're just going to wait and see if we do receive a formal submission from the owner. Right now, they're just looking for some feedback from the township, but I wanted to bring that to the attention of the board since this plan may be forthcoming in a future planning commission meeting. That's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
No. Thanks, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
Liz, I don't know if you have anything?
No, I do not. I have nothing.
Great, thanks. Chief?
I don't have much. Just real quickly, I'd like to ask the township residents' help in helping the police department combat motor vehicles. If you could just, residents, if they could just make sure they lock their doors each night and don't leave their keys in the vehicle.
Chief, we lost you. We lost
Lock
your
your cars, folks. Keep your keys out of the ignition.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
There you go, Chief.
Joe got it.
Anything else, Chief?
Nothing else. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Jeff?
Just two quick items. Today we received and signed off on the traffic designs and permits for the Perkiomen Avenue improvement. PennDOT now has them back in their hands. We electronically signed them. They're going to sign off on them, and then they're going to be able to move ahead with the bidding of the contracts. The other item is internally the staff is progressing quite well on the municipal complex feasibility study. Each of the departments have filled out the surveys, combining them all together and forwarding them on to KCPA. And hopefully, maybe by the end of next week, we'll have an on-site visit by them to come in and do their walkthrough of the complex. That's all.
Great, thank you. Public comments, general non-agenda items.
Okay, we've got 3. And the first one is from John Knoll.
On April 27th, 2020, I had submitted a right to know request for any communication that occurred related to the Exeter Township noise and zoning ordinances, which have been discussed at the township meetings for over a year now. This information was requested in preparation for any impending changes to either one of these 2 ordinances. I submitted additional questions by email related to the right to know request prior to the August 10th, 2020 meeting and have still not received any of the requested information. During the August 10th meeting, my request information was shared and the township manager said, taken care of, when in reality this has yet to be completed. According to PA House Bill 2463, this information needs to be provided whenever it is requested, which includes during this pandemic. It has now been almost 4 months with no response when the requested information is required to be provided within 30 days of the request. I am once again requesting any communications related to the Exeter Township noise and zoning ordinances as submitted in my right to know request that was submitted to the township on April 27th.
Yeah, Jeff, I mean, I know we discussed this one. It's an enormous request. You can cover it.
Yeah, I'd like to fill you in. When I said that it was taken care of, I misspoke in that it was completed. My statement that was taken care of was that the extension had been given and they were finalizing it. Just to let everyone know, this is not what you would consider a typical right to know request. The information that Mr. Knoll requested is in excess of 4,000 pages of documents. It's a huge, huge request, and it does require a lot of scrutiny and redaction. If there's any personal information, some of the items may not be permitted to be given out at all because they involve attorney-client privilege on emails. It was all types of correspondence related to this that was requested. So that's why it is taking an excessively long amount of time to produce 4,000 pages of documents.
Great. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay. Next one is from Glenn Hoover.
Good morning. This is Glenn Hoover.
10 Annie's Acres, Berks. I'm calling today to express my clarification on the issue I raised when the board, on disbursements. If the full board, the board does not approve it 100%, I think it should be noted after the accounts are done. And I'm doing this that in the future, especially when something is audited, this will bring the attention that there might be something in there that needs to be special attention. I know it would have been very, very helpful in the past. I think it's something good to have for consideration. As I feel it's very, very important that when you're handling funds, that there's some type of paper trail where things can be traced back. That's for consideration. Also, I am very disappointed that no one seemed to be interested in collecting our insurance claim for the money that was lost, totaling $750,000. Of that, $150,000 was legal fees. But the $600,000 to me is a substantial amount of money. And I just can't believe that when it was brought up at the meeting, that there's so little interest in it. Because I can assure you, I'm not going to wait till something is done. And I sure feel confident that the insurance company wants to pay. But it's my understanding there were certain people that want executive privilege. So are we playing games with a refund there of money or what? I think that needs an explanation. I'd appreciate hearing from somebody. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks. I mean, I think I was the one that brought that up at the meeting, what the status was. I think we have something one or two outstanding at the wastewater treatment plant, something at the Reading Country Club. You know, I don't know if we can request a report from Divot or, you know, Jeff, if we can just put together a summary of where these stand. They seem to take a long time.
Yes, and I think Jennifer can weigh in on this particular issue. We spoke about it today. The issue that he brought up regarding the Reading Country Club. Jen recently provided them with additional information. Is that correct, Jen?
It is, Jeff. So this is actually not a Divot insurance claim. This is a bond claim that was made against the public officials bond, which is with Travelers Insurance. This has been going on this has to do with the misappropriation of funds with the Reading Country Club bond that was discovered in 2018. I think the original claim was made in 2019, early 2019 most likely. And we've been working through it. I called Sam Cortez from Fox Rothschild today, who's been dealing with this for over a year now, to get a status update. He said that they, of course, have provided multiple documents over the time period in 2019 and early 2020 to Travelers. They had an actually in-person meeting right before COVID hit back in, I think, January or February with the claim rep at Travelers. And he actually got the impression after that this was going to be wrapped up and that the claim was going to be paid. He said that they told them they needed everything they needed to pay the claim. Of course, unfortunately, COVID hit, the world kind of got turned upside down. We didn't hear anything for a while, and I think a week or a week and a half ago was the first time that Fox Rothschild heard from the claim rep, and it actually was not that the claim was resolved, it was that they were asking for more information. So there was another list of 15 items that they were asking for. Fox Rothschild contacted the township. Within a matter of 2 to 3 days, we gathered all the information that they were looking for. They were looking for the complete bond documents, some videos or meeting minutes. There was a couple other things. They wanted some information on Chef Allen's and their the agreements we had with Chef Allen. They needed some termination dates with Chef Allen's. So that is the information they requested. We got that back to Fox. That was immediately sent by Fox over to Travelers. So it is back in Travelers' hands, and it's unfortunately still an open item, and we're not quite sure what the holdup is or what their next move will be.
Great. Thanks, Jen. You know, that's one of them. And I think the other thing that Mr. Hoover brought up was recording the vote. I think it's always our intention to note in the minutes when someone is opposed to an approval of an item or a motion. If we missed that, you know, I think, Mr. Hoover could, maybe direct us to that spot, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Lori or Jeff. I mean, usually we always want to record that as well.
That's correct. Yes, I always do. We always record whoever maybe votes against, but I think if he's referring to, it sounds to me like he might be referring also to specifically noting the reason for the no vote. I record that if it's given, of course. If no specific reason is given, then I just record if it's voted. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. And the last public comment is from John Carmello.
At the June 8th meeting, I inquired why the Reading Country Club was not on the agenda. The BOS responded that an individual was hired to do a survey and that would be completed by the end of July. It is now the end of August and there still has been no update from the board. 1. What is the status of the survey? 2. 0. When will the findings of the survey be communicated to the residents? 3. You are moving forward on town halls for the promenade. When will a town hall be scheduled for the RCC?
I think I can provide a little info on this. Yes, the township did contract with an outside consultant to do a study of the Reading Country Club regarding the food service operation. It wasn't to do a survey. The gentleman who was doing it, unfortunately, his father became very ill down in Florida. He ended up leaving the state, going to Florida. His father recently passed away of COVID, and he had to deal with that, and is now back in Pennsylvania and had to isolate for a period of time. When I spoke with him last week, he assured me that the study would be electronically sent to the township on Wednesday of this week. When it comes in, I'll share it with the board, and we will then be able to move forward and see what his recommendations are regarding what direction he feels the township should pursue when it comes to the food service operation. So it wasn't that he was deliberately stalling or holding us off. There are a lot of things that are put on hold, and dealing with an ill family member in Florida was not something this gentleman had planned on. So we will have that report this week, and I will be forwarding that on to the board members, and then we'll be able to discuss it at the next meeting.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. And I think the other comment was about when we were just, going to schedule a meeting. Well, obviously, we need to wait for that information and have a topic to discuss, I think.
Yeah, and when Mr. Carmello mentioned moving with town hall for the promenade, it's not exactly the correct terminology, I think, to call it a town hall. Obviously, we can't have large public meetings where anybody could just show up at it. What we're hoping to do with the promenade is the information that we are providing to the consultant, to the architect. They will put that all together, and they will schedule public gatherings, limiting the number of people. People will have to respond in advance, that they, make a reservation basically, where we'll have to limit the number of people that will be available at each of these meetings. We know that we may have to have several of them. The architect knows that they'll have to do that. Where, with no more than 25 people total, they'll have to do it by reservation. But it's not really a town hall meeting. I think the misnomer of a town hall We can provide information out to people, but having a large public gathering where anyone would, at this point, would ever be able to just show up and come to a meeting is not going to happen under our current guidelines. No matter where the location is, we're limited on 25 people. So we may be turning people away, and then there'll be arguments that we're not allowing them to provide information. So having a general open meeting without reserved space is really not something we can manage to do at this time. But we will be providing the info out there, and I'm really anxious to see what this gentleman has put together regarding the Reading Country Club, so we can start moving ahead with that process.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. Any others, Lauren?
Nope, that was it.
Great. Supervisor reports. Michelle?
I have nothing at this time.
Joe?
Just one thing, just to reiterate that we will be meeting with the school district, kind of a meet and greet with Dr. Minor, the new superintendent, and Jeff, and again, trying to improve and help forge a better relationship with the school district.
Great. Thanks, Joe. John?
I just want to thank the staff for, continuing to do a great job with the challenging conditions, Jeff and the whole team. That's all. Just want to give you guys my, you guys are doing a great job.
Thanks, John. And Greg?
I'll echo what John said. Appreciate what everyone's doing. I don't have anything else.
Great, thanks. And yeah, I think a very good discussion on the sports fields. Thanks for the research on that, Laurie, and the entire staff for getting us all this information. Laurie and Clarence and the entire team, I think really nice work at the Mountain Park. I think a lot of people are enjoying that. Following up on the mowing contract, I know, as we said there, I think that's going to be important as we get into the budgeting process. I think it would be nice, I don't know how much work it is, but if we can start feeling around on options for recycling, that doubled last year. I think we're going to need that as we get into the budgeting process of, we're not going to wait till December and then get surprised again. So I think that'd be nice to get that information. But other than that, thank everyone and hope everyone stays safe.
Are you going to mention the executive?
Oh yes, we're gonna have a short executive session following this meeting, which will be reported probably at the next meeting as well, just to cover a couple of items. Other than that, take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. All right, so I'm going to end this one, and then everyone just needs to join the other one.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks.
Good night.